All right, so you call what the president calls his one big, beautiful bill. You call it reckless, but you do like some parts of it, like the business tax cuts. What are the parts that you think are reckless?
Yeah, so I've also been recently calling it the one big bloated bill. The most reckless part of this bill is the massive deficit increase that it will trigger. We are already on track to add more than $20 trillion in additional debt over the next 10 years, just based on automatic spending increases in the major entitlements, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and interest on the debt for the most part. And this bill doubles down on that, adding about a 25% increase potentially to the debt, depending on how things end up turning out. Because you have to know that a lot of the spending reductions in this bill, about a total of $1 trillion compared to like a $4 trillion tax cut, are backloaded. So there will be a chance potentially for lawmakers to reverse those spending reductions. So that's particularly concerning about this bill. But you do get an extension of the Trump tax cuts, which is important for all Americans because it avoids a massive tax increase, which could also have been damaging to the markets and, of course, to individuals' pocketbooks. Congress should just have gone about it in a more fiscally responsible manner and actually paid for those tax cut extensions and also not extended further tax cuts that are not necessary and actually bad economic policy.
All right, Romina,
like
let me jump in for
Trump
a second.
accounts.
I want to go to some of the parts that you want to cut, some of the parts that you're calling bloated. One of the areas is health care. The president famously said, don't F with Medicaid. There was a big headline a lot of people talked about. Where would you cut when it comes to health care? You mentioned that the tax cuts benefit individuals, but a lot of people also rely on Medicare and Medicaid for health care services.
Absolutely. Medicaid has been significantly expanded and in a way that actually hurts healthcare access for more vulnerable populations like pregnant women, children, and individuals with disabilities who are the core original target population of the Medicaid program. Due to the Obamacare expansion, states receive 90 cents on the dollar for able-bodied individuals. That a lot of that could be working age men that should be working and not on Medicaid. And because the federal government incentivizes states to expand Medicaid and pays a much higher share of Medicaid costs for these able-bodied individuals, it has actually pulled healthcare access away from people who were originally intended to be beneficiaries for this. This is a big problem with the current program, which also has resulted in about $1 trillion just in wasteful spending because states have very little incentive to actually clean up their Medicaid rolls when the federal government pays them 90 cents on the dollar. We need to realign the incentives here. And one last change is the provider tax scam that is going on in Medicaid with a lot of states where...
Romina, we're kind of getting into some tangents, so I want to jump in just for a second. One thing that a lot of people are talking about, Mark Haefele from UBS, for example, saying if this bill passes, that the Treasury would have to increase debt issuances and issuances of Treasuries. Do you have concerns about that? Putting out more Treasuries to basically fund some of these decisions?
Yes, this is what's going to happen. The Treasury is already locked in to have to refinance about $9 trillion in maturing debt this year, on top of the already existing roughly $2 trillion deficit, which this bill will increase. That is concerning. We heard from Moody's on Friday, which has now joined the other two major credit rating agencies in downgrading the United States debt, because we can all see that the U.S. fiscal course is unsustainable, and so far politicians' appetite to continue to increase spending and cut taxes despite the U.S. massive debt seems not to be waning.